Springfield Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Coming up, we will be opening up the phone lines, sponsored by Delta Roofing. Get your thoughts on Election Day, these spring elections. We do have sample ballots at KSGF.com, sponsored by Brad Pistola, host of Safe Money Radio. Kicking it off, a reminder, I want a great homeloan.com. Any home loan needs you may have, refinancing needs, the stock market, interest rate. There's just so much going on. It's all so confusing. Well, that's why you have the experts at iwantagreathomeloan.com with the characters and their team. You know, for a period of time with the advent of the internet, and it was like, oh, all things internet, that makes everything better. And the internet, of course, did make a lot of things easier, particularly when it comes to purchasing certain things and getting certain bits of information. But what you lose is that customized customer experience that is dedicated to you and your needs in ways that you just can't duplicate it versus what you get locally when you've got the characters and their team and you can pick up the phone and actually talk to a human being. Talk to Anthony, talk to Alex, talk to any of the folks there on the team and ask them questions about your particular situation and have them give you answers based off your specific situation. That's just not something that you can really duplicate in a satisfactory way, and it's why for years and years and years I've been recommending, I know many of you for your home buying needs, home loans, refinancing, reverse mortgages have gone with iwantagreathomeloan.com because you do. Yesterday, a big impact because of fake news that was being spread for a relatively short period of time, but it was enough to cause what was referred to as an insane stock market swing. You had numerous media outlets falsely claiming that Trump was open to a 90-day pause on all tariffs, which was absolutely not true. Some of the audio is hilarious. CNBC, I believe, is the network that led with it. And then when they came on to the correction, they're like, we're trying to figure out where this came from. Well, it came from you. I mean, you're the people who are out there spreading it around. Then Reuters picks it up, Wall Street Journal, before, of course, the cascading corrections take place. Art Laffer was on with Larry Kudlow, and thought there was a great exchange there. Now, you may be familiar with the term Laffer curve. This is during the Reagan years, and this was the economic policies that adhered to largely resulted in so much of the economic boom that we saw in the 80s, so much so that all of a sudden, benefiting economically was a bad thing. This is how you knew that the policies during the Reagan years began to kick in and work because the left could no longer deny it. And so then they just started saying we were all greedy. It's a decade of greed. Look at everybody doing so well. It's all so disgusting out there getting from the lower class to the middle class and middle class going up to the upper class and upper class going to the upper class. And it's just so vile. It's so disgusting. And that Laffer curve is the economic policy that and adherence to it in so many ways and the recognition of it was what was largely attributed to those economic successes. And he was on talking about what he sees occurring should Trump's plans play out. Now, I'll tell you that it's very, very good news, even better news than many people that are supporters of Trump is predicting. I listening to Scott Jennings on CNN, reflecting on his amusement that Democrats all of a sudden are free traders, and he remembers not just a couple of years ago how we were told that the definition of recession was changed. They had to change the definition so that they could deny that we were in a recession, and all of those people are now lecturing us as experts today in the short term. And the thing I remember when Trump was running for re-election and the stock market was doing very well, and I don't know why, it's Elizabeth Warren's screechy voice more than any of them, going on and on about, oh, sure, Wall Street, but what about Main Street? That's all we heard from Democrats. when it came to the stock market. The stock market doing well was a bad thing for average Americans because that was the Wall Street fat cats. Oh, the Wall Street fat cats, all of Donald Trump's billionaire friends. Sure, they're doing well, but what about Main Street? That's what we're concerned about. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. Isn't it amazing that those same people today are all pitching a fit over the stock market? What happened to the Democrat Party that said that was just billionaire fat cats? These were Donald Trump billionaire donors that were benefiting while the rest of us were suffering. It's really fascinating how different they can present things when it suits them, isn't it? Media as well. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we will open the phone lines and allow you to call in. Some of you, it's more convenient to text in. The number is the same. For both of those, it's the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447-KSGF. Largely, we're looking at school board races, but there are obviously, city council, there are bond issues, depending on where you are. Again, if you don't know exactly what you're going to be dealing with at your polling place, we do have the sample ballots up, sponsored by Brad Pistol, host of Safe Money Radio. And, you're like, well, for school board, I know school board, I don't know where to vote. You vote where you always vote. I mean, that's it, unless you move or something, or a rare occasion in which a voting location switches. But that's going to be absolute rare, and I'm not even sure if that has happened within the listening area between the last election period and this election period. But wherever it is, that is your voting location. So we'll open up those phone lines in the 7 o'clock hour and see what sort of feedback that we get from y'all, all right? Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
In the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the latest in the tariffs. And I listen, I really genuinely, because I mean, many of us have been through this sort of thing before with these massive pull-out hair. Oh my gosh, the stock market, and you know, come out of it. Call me Pollyannish, but I've learned from history, and that isn't to say you can't have some sort of anomalous situation. Economically speaking, on paper, and when you understand motivating factors of people in other countries, and this is where Trump is smart. This is why Trump understands the art of the deal and how to come out ahead. It isn't academic. It's not out of a book. It is because he's learned how to read people, and he understands what motivates people, and you leverage what they want in order to get what you want. And what he recognizes these other countries don't want is their economies to collapse and to have their industries knocking on their door saying, you have got to fix this problem because this is very, very harmful to our industry. And so that's to a large degree what these tariffs are about, is getting the internal pressure to activate within all of these different trading partners so that he doesn't have to do the pressure. Because the people internally, the business owners, the industries, they're the ones putting the pressures on their leaders saying, you got to fix this thing. And this is, where Trump understands people. He's got a pretty good track record, I'd say. While no one is perfect, when it comes to private sector and all things economy, virtually anyone from the private sector I'm going to trust over someone who's never been in the private sector. I love some of these people that get on television, particularly elected officials, and start just going off as if they're some sort of expert, and they've never even managed a store in their life. Never did a payroll. Never actually ran into it. Some of these people have never even worked in the private sector in their entire lives. I mean, you think about that for a moment. Never having worked like any sort of career. They start very young, an internship here, then they run over here, and essentially they go from college with a poli-sci degree or an economics degree or whatever it may be, all academic, and then they go straight in to politics, and they never have a private sector job. They never manage in anything. So already Trump, being a business person, he's got a little bit of street cred. And I know people who hate Trump, they run around and they say, well, he's had this many bankruptcies. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Find me a successful business person that hasn't had failures. What is it? Dave Ramsey has said that all success is standing on top of your failures instead of getting buried underneath them. Anyone who points to a person who has had failures in the business world and says that is proof that they're not successful is someone who has never actually had any success business-wise in their life. I just find, and listen, I'm not at the age, I'm not 65 where I'm needing to retire and rely on the stock market and the 401k. So I understand I'm in a different position. I mean, if you're somebody in your 20s or even 30s, I wouldn't worry about any of this at all. I mean, this is going to be so far. I think back to previous economic crises with the stock market, and I mean, I remember that they happened, but they're just so far gone from the memory because we end up recovering. And all of this is the real rub of it, is that you can have to some degree a self-fulfilled prophecy because the markets are oftentimes based off of speculation, what is going to happen. And so when you have people, many for political motivated reasons, running around talking about how this is going to be awful, this is going to tank our economy, this is going to be the worst thing ever. So, running around with acting like their hair is on fire, that in and of itself can cause problems. So you got that component in there. You have networks like this CNBC. So yesterday, huge fake news everywhere. And it appeared, according to some reports, to begin on CNBC with Carl Quintanilla. And he fueled a fake news story about the Trump administration implementing a 90-day pause on tariffs. Seconds later, CNBC aired a breaking news banner that read, Hassett, Trump is considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except China. Reuters amplified the fake news. You had numerous different outlets, and so all of a sudden you have these massive, crazy swings in the stock market because of just talk. It wasn't long after CNBC had to go to the air and correct the record.
Spoke to Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, on the phone just a short time ago, and she tells me it is, quote unquote, fake news that the White House is considering a 90-day pause. So the White House pouring cold water on this idea, wherever it came from, that they're considering a 90-day pause on tariffs, saying that the president is committed to his tariff regime, and any reports that he's considering a 90-day pause are, quote, fake news. That from the White House press secretary on the record just a short time ago to me on the cell phone here as we try to sort through where this came from and why it is that the market became convinced that might be a possibility. The White House saying it is not a possibility, Carl.
Now, evidently, they're claiming that this fake news came from an exchange on Fox and Friends in which there was a question about a 90-day pause, and Kevin Hassett of the White House National Economic Council said, I think the president's going to decide what the president's going to decide. There are more than 50 countries in negotiation with the president. We've got the Prime Minister of Israel coming today. We've had a reach out overnight from Taiwan. But I would urge everyone, especially Bill Aikman, to ease up on the rhetoric a little bit. The fact is that a 10% baseline tariff is on 14% of GDP. That's how much trade we have, how many imports. And then he went on to talk about tax cuts and so forth. So somehow that was misinterpreted into, yes, Donald Trump is thinking about a 90-day pause on tariffs on every country except China. Over on CNN, Scott Jennings talking about reflecting in amusement on the Democrats and their sudden newfound religion of so-called free trade.
This is only part of the deal. The other part of the deal is making the tax cuts permanent, and maybe even, if I were them, cut the capital gains tax and offer to slash the corporate tax rate and see if you can get any Democrats to join, because I'm amused by the Democrats who are all of a sudden free traders and for lower taxes. Well, if you've got Democrats who'd like to reduce the taxation on corporate activity, well, let's see how serious they are. Cut capital gains, slash the corporate income tax rate. I find it amusing that everybody talks about the '08 crash and the COVID. No one ever mentions that in 2022, the S&P was down 20, the NASDAQ was down 33, and I don't remember any of these Democrats being in hysterics when the market fully crashed in 2022. So I think Republicans are content.
Well, what
to
would
let
you
the president.
ascribe the reason for that happening to?
I assume it was some combination of terrible fiscal policy and lack of confidence in the president. And so,
they're sometimes related, but in this case, this was a very specific action with a very specific reaction.
And the market.
I love that response. So he's noting, where were you all back in 22 when this happened? Most of you followed this stuff, you may not even remember that occurring. Because the media and the Democrats acted like it was no big deal. And when she asked, well, what caused that? He's like, well, it's a combination of bad leadership, poor economic policy. Well, it's not always the fault of the president. This is different. See, well, of course it's different because that was under Joe Biden. It's always different. Anytime there is any particular circumstance that occurs that the left points to as a horrific outcome due to the policies of a Republican or Donald Trump, and if you point out, now wait a minute, just a couple years ago, you said those outcomes were fine, or they were I mean, tariffs themselves, with Joe Biden announcing tariffs on China specifically. That was a wonderful thing. It was great for workers. It was going to hold China accountable. And when you point this out, well, see, that's different. That's a different situation. Oh, okay. Of course it is. Because no issue itself is grounded in anything other than how is this useful for us to attack political opposition, to retain power, or to get back in power. And so if that means presenting tariffs as a wonderful thing because Joe Biden was implementing them, then so be it. Or if that means tariffs are a horrible thing because Donald Trump is doing it, so be it. If that means that under those policies with Joe Biden that there was some massive kick on the stock market, well, that's okay. See, that'll fix itself. That's all part of the process. If it happens under Donald Trump, this is economic disaster. He has no idea what he's doing. The whole world is in turmoil. Everyone's very confused by this. You see how it works? This is why you can't listen to these people. Now, there are some people that we can listen to, and they are the adults in the room, Art Laffer being one of them, and he's a former Reagan economist. Now, you may not necessarily agree with his position, but he's been doing this for a very, very long time, and he, incidentally, doesn't agree with the assertion coming out of the White House that just this sort of broad brush acceptance that trade deficits are 100% bad and that we need to have even Steven. He argues that that's not the case. So he's not somebody that's just this, Trump supporter, and whatever Trump says, I'm going to figure out a way to, support it. That's not who he is. So that's someone that you can listen to and you get their analysis. And we're going to play some of that coming up here. Again, it doesn't mean that he's right 100% of the time, but we have to stop listening to we have to stop listening to the Adam Schiffs, any elected Democrat. And it's just the truth. Any elected Democrat. I think that I saw a headline. There was one elected Democrat who said, yeah, these tariffs actually need to be done. But the Democrats that are put on the news in order to give you their expert analysis, you can't listen to any of them, and virtually none of the people in the media, because they've demonstrated that they are not trustworthy. Some of the Laffer commentary coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company talking text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. We talk about the uncertainty, and if you have, maybe it's for you or you have parents or whatever the circumstance is, a certain amount of savings, you have a certain amount of assets, and you worry about what that is going to look like when it comes time for you to pass it on. Listen, government is going to get they're going to claw absolutely everything they can. And one of the ways that you can really protect yourself and your family as best as possible, keeping government out of it, is to get a plan together with Ozarks Elder Law. Lori Rook, she's been a friend of the station, of the show, for quite some time now, and for very good reason. And this is just a tremendous service that it's unfortunately one of those things that once it becomes too late, I mean, it's never too late to try to correct the course, but once it's like quicksand. Once you get in it, it is something that you may have to fight really, really hard to get out of. And the absolute best way possible to keep government out of it as best as possible and to save as much of what it is that you want to pass along to your family members afterwards, whether it's a family farm or old photographs or just things that you would never think of that could be meaningful. You need a plan, and you can get that with Ozarks Elder Law. Find them at ozarkselderlaw.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, sunny skies with a high near 70.
Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we will open the phone line, sponsored by Delta Roofing, for election stuff. So you'll be able to call in, give your thoughts on any of the area races, school board, city council. I know there are a number of levies this, taxes that, and so forth. And so we will open those phone lines. A sample ballot, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio, or at KSGF.com. I imagine there's got to be a level of, well, maybe not. I could see how there would be a level of frustration for Trump, knowing that when you embark on a big change, oftentimes there is a little bit of messiness. And when you become accustomed to it, you just know that's the way it is. But all of a sudden to have everyone screaming and yelling and being like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Just like, no, it's not. This is how this stuff works. Now, granted, dealing with international trade clearly has a number of different components to it that you don't have domestically in the private sector, though Trump does deal internationally, or did deal internationally in the private sector as well. So he's familiar with the way that these countries work. He's familiar with the mindset of the leaders. He has that advantage. And I imagine it's just, there's got to be, I would think, a level of annoyance that all of this noise, like, listen, this is what it looks like when you have to make massive improvements. This is how it is. There are just so many things that are counterintuitive if you've never been in business before. It sounds like being in debt is a really bad thing, right? Because in our personal finances, we think of, well, if I'm in debt, I have a bunch of credit card debt. That's not a good thing. That's not positive. But when it comes to the business world, being in debt can mean that it is because you are expanding. And that is a sign of growth. And so there's so many aspects of just the business world when it comes to trade that we don't know. We don't understand this stuff. And frankly, the complexities of it sometimes aren't going to be understood by anyone. It's just going to be human reaction. So this idea that, any one person magically knows that this is all going to be horrible and awful, that defies history, of course. It defies the track record of Donald Trump. But also, it is important to listen to people that aren't politicized. One of those individuals, former Reagan economist Art Laffer, he was on Kudlow on Fox Business News. And incidentally, he isn't he's not a mouthpiece or a messenger for the Trump administration. In fact, he doesn't, the broad brush of painting this as something necessary in order to do away with trade deficits. He does not. He believes that in certain capacities, trade deficits are actually good, and he's like, that's all nonsense. That's not what matters. That's just noise. Don't worry about that. So he isn't somebody that runs around carrying the message of Donald Trump. But when it comes to the reality of what's going on here, he has a few insights that I think are valuable. Here he is talking about some of that with Kudlow yesterday.
On January 1st, 1983, the U.S. went into a huge trade deficit as the economy boomed beyond belief. Everyone was trying to invest in the United States, Larry. And what do you want? Capital lined up in your borders trying to get into your country or trying to get out of your country? Of course you want them to come into the country, and that's what happened with Reagan. And by the way, that's what's going to happen with Trump with his phenomenal policies. What he has done and all the rest of the policies are spectacular. I think he was the best single president on economics, by the way, in his first term. And if he does this right this time, he'll be the best president ever in economics. But it has to be, we need a big trade deficit, a big capital surplus, while everyone brings the jobs back to America. That's what we need.
Part of what I appreciate about Art Laffer's expression there of thoughts is that he's worried about what's actually happening, not what's being said. And he notes that Trump again is talking about this in the context of deficits. We need to get rid of the trade deficits, and he's like, no, deficits are good. So deficits that shows growth. That's actually a good thing. Trade deficits are a good thing. Now some people may disagree with it, but the point is, he said, but when it really comes to what Trump's doing, this is going to be massive if he's able to get it done. And Republicans in Congress really largely could be a potential stumbling block for some of this. But fortunately, there is a great deal of discretion that that the president of the United States has in this particular circumstance, with the ability to do the tariff stuff because Congress has given the president that authority. A couple of weeks ago, of course, Rand Paul gave a lengthy speech in the Senate arguing that this was completely unconstitutional. Well, maybe it is, but Congress is the one that on 5 different occasions has written up legislation that was signed by the president, giving the president different authorities when it comes to tariffs. So, you could argue if it ever went before the Supreme Court, they may say, yes, this is unconstitutional. But the fact of the matter is Trump's operating as every other previous president has since the beginning of these tariff powers given to the executive branch by the legislative branch. Now, Larry Kudlow also reflecting in the conversation back and forth about what much of this means, particularly if Congress and Republicans get their act together and we see the rollback of regulations and tax cuts as well, what all this could mean in terms of economic growth for the country.
If you slash taxes, which is what's his policy, if you roll back all these onerous business regulations, if you produce more oil and gas, more energy in general, along with a fairer, friendlier trade policy, okay, if you do all that,
yes,
I would suggest that the American economy under Trump policies will grow. I mean, it's going to be 3%. It could be 3.5%. Who knows? Could be 4% over the next 10 years.
It could be much higher, Larry.
But the point I'm making is...
It could be much higher.
Yes, but the point I'm making... Yes, yeah. It could be. Whatever you think it can be. But the point is, we will grow faster than the rest of the world. Follow me. We will grow faster than the rest of the world. And in so doing, we will run a trade deficit. And it's not a bad thing. It's the natural... We're going to grow faster than Europe. We're going to grow faster than Asia. We're going to grow faster than China, even, for heaven's sake. So we're going to have a trade gap.
All right. So, again, their thoughts on the trade deficit itself is that, no, that's a good thing, but and that will result from a positive. That will be because of Trump's policies, particularly if Congress gets their act together and makes the tax cuts permanent instead of what the Democrats want, and that is an increase on taxes, primarily on middle-class Americans, which will be quite problematic, then we're going to see tremendous amount of growth. There's a point, I've got to get a traffic update. There's a point that Laffer makes about the different states in the country and how all that comes into play. And as the state of Missouri grapples with what was a campaign promise of now Governor Kehoe, and that is the elimination of state income tax, is very, very, very important in all of this. And I thought he just makes a point that I don't know a lot of people have thought about, and it has to do with the economic policies of state by state. Because these different industries that will and already have been announcing they're going to come, some of them, to the United States, they're going to pick where they want to go within the United States. And the economic policies of Missouri versus Texas versus Tennessee versus New Jersey can have a huge impact on which state gets those jobs. Latest traffic. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The weather last week, it was pretty rough, especially if you are located in the southern listening area like Ozark or Stone counties. If you experienced any type of damage to your roof, whether you have hail or wind damage or you have leaks, don't go at it alone. I want to recommend my go-to guys, and that would be Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections where they check everything from your gutters, your vents, they even get in your attic, and they check your decking as well. They take tons of photos and videos so you can see what they see, and if you do end up needing any of their services, they will work with you through that insurance process as well. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out to your home, schedule that appointment with Josh today. And like always, you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Hey, Nick, it's Judd. You should point out that this stock market crash, in quotes, the market is still higher than it was all of Biden's term except for about 3 months, which the vast majority of was at the end after Trump announced he was running or after the election after he had won. So with that said, a, quote, crash under Trump is still better than the best under Biden. Well, and it's perspective, and there's truth to that. People who are, you want to take the politics out of it, just talk to people that investing is what they do for a living. And they will tell you that, from my experience, because we've been through these things before, they say it's going to pan out. And then they will give examples. There was a crash that happened here, and then here's what we ended up with. Crash that happened here, here's what we ended up with. And so, over the duration of the existence of the stock market and people having their investments tied up in it, yes, right now it's like that dip in a roller coaster, but it comes to an end. I mean, the only, shouldn't say the only, but I mean, if you want to see what it looks like when it doesn't come to an end and we do have complete and total collapse, then we just continue to do what we've been doing, administration after administration after administration. I want to play one last bit of audio from Art Laffer as he was on with Larry Kudlow yesterday talking about, let me make sure I get the right audio here. Okay. This is a really great point that he's making. And as he makes it, just think about these different companies. And part of the plan is to make the United States the sort of place that a number of these companies will say, you know what, it's financially advantageous to us for us to move to the United States. But here's what you got to recognize. Moving to the United States and opening a factory in Florida is much different than New Jersey or California, right? And that is because while Trump and Republicans on a national level right now can alter the landscape in terms of federal regulations and federal taxes, you still have states with their separate economic policies, and this is what he touches on.
And I looked at the manufacturing issue, and when I look at manufacturing in the U.S. and how we've been losing it, it's China's fault or the rest of the world's fault. We really should be looking in the mirror. The problem, as Pogo said, it's us. If you look at the manufacturing states like Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Wisconsin, they're all the highest tax states in the nation. Who wants to locate a new factory in Detroit? No one. It's forced union. It's all these things. The taxes there are terrible. We don't have any problem with manufacturing here in Tennessee. Believe me when I tell you, they're coming here. The problem is our states are pushing manufacturing out of this country in a way because of their very bad policies. If we had good economic policies in the U.S. at the state and local level, as well as Trumponomics on the federal level, we'd have manufacturing coming to this country by the barrel. I mean, it would be amazing.
Now, this is significant because Missouri right now is at least some within the Republican Party, and Mike Kehoe said if he got elected governor, he would make this happen, getting rid of income taxes in the state of Missouri. Now, you have capital gains tax, you have, there's so many different taxes, of course, that different companies need to deal with and the way taxes are done. We're talking, I mean, when it comes to bringing jobs back to the United States, we're going to be talking about mostly large, not small businesses, but larger businesses. But to Laffer's point here, the states and their economic policies also have an impact on the level of attractiveness here in the United States when it comes to doing business here. And what an opportunity for states that have more economically friendly, more business-friendly environments. The Texas, you mentioned Tennessee. You're talking about Florida. Because if you are going to be moving a facility and you have employees, so even if you're talking about, state income taxes, you are in all likelihood going to figure in that as one of the decision-making aspects of what state that you go to. Because if you get to pick anywhere, you might as well pick the place, if you're going to move to the United States, that is going to, within the United States, be the best place to go. And I suspect, unless there are like geographic reasons that are necessary, you're going to have these companies going to states like Tennessee or Texas or Florida, and not states like California, New York, and New Jersey, and Illinois. Now, there will be certain circumstances in which there are other factors that offset the damage done by the economic policies and the regulatory policies of the blue states, but you can imagine how much more attractive red states are going to be. And I think, Missouri, now it's my understanding that the Kehoe promise to eliminate the state income tax is not going to be happening this year, that it's going to be kicked to next year. Now, my fear is that anytime Republicans in particular start saying, well, we won't get it done that every year that it's like a diminishing likelihood that it's actually going to get done. Now, the argument on the other side is, no, it's laying the groundwork so that it can get done very quickly at the beginning of the next session. Time is going to tell on that. We can all just hope that now Governor Kehoe puts as much effort into getting the state income tax eliminated as he did getting the tax increases at the pump 5 separate years in a row. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Dow futures bouncing 1,000 points plus up this morning, to the point being made earlier in the program about, the doom and gloomers and the panics that all right now, of course, it can go back down and there'll be ups and downs, but this just serves the point again that, this idea that, when it goes down, it's never coming up is already proven to be not true. This is just 3 days into it. At the same time, we'll get to this maybe in the 8 o'clock hour, because we're going to open up the phone lines coming up in the next hour to get your calls on today's election. That open phone line, Delta Roofing, sponsoring that, and the sample ballots, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. But I keep seeing these stories about how Democrat governors are talking about unilaterally working with other countries to make it financially advantageous for them not to get into trade wars. And I'm thinking, isn't it interesting that they don't do that for American companies? Once again, putting non-Americans ahead of Americans. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I am Nick Reed. Dow bouncing up over 1,000 this morning. We can expect to see this sort of thing. This is what is going to happen with the uncertainty. I suspect that the certainty of Trump not backing down may add some certainty to the market, which could be helpful. I believe that much of what some of our particularly adversarial trade relationships are, that banking on Trump buckling to pressure from Democrats and the media, freaking everybody out, and hoping that Trump would be very concerned about that Republicans would worry about their reelection efforts in Congress and pressure Trump to back off. And so watching his reaction to the media freak out and the Democrats act like it's the end of the world, and to gauge whether or not he's going to be affected by that, and seeing that he's pretty steady in it and saying, hey, don't panic. I mean, this is the way that it is. That adds a little bit of stability, perhaps, to the direction of things. I wanted to mention, of course, been sharing with you information about Pinnacle Honda, and they're opening their revamped facility. They're doing this complete overhaul. It's supposed to be around the end of the month. I think April 28th is the exact target date. They're on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. But Honda is a name, what does American made mean any longer? And there are people, how is this going to affect vehicle purchases? How will it affect Honda purchases? So I was, back and forth having conversations with them, and they were just filling me in on some of how all this affects them, and noting that the most American-made vehicle is actually Honda, with 70% of Honda automobiles sold in the U.S. made here in America. The Honda Ridgeline, the Passport, and the Odyssey are all made 100% exclusively in Alabama. Honda has 3 models that fall into the top 10 American-made brands: the Ridgeline, Passport, and Odyssey. The Accord and the Pilot fall into the top 15 American-made models. And in terms of how tariffs will impact anything that they have on the lot right now, in case this is something you're worried about, panicking about, you thought, we were going to go check out a new vehicle. All of the current vehicles on the lot are not going to have any sort of price increase. They've all been invoiced already. Now, of course, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, but it's something to keep in mind when you worry about increased cost for potential new vehicles, and something that right now, and for a lot of these vehicles, you just don't have to worry about as long as you're getting them from the good people at Pinnacle Honda on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. All right, we're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to get weather. We're going to get traffic here. We're going to take your calls. Phone lines open. Election. Anything election, all things election. Just for you to say, here's who I want you to vote for. Here's why. You don't have to say. You can articulate if you'd like. You don't have to. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447-KSGF. And you can text in as well, or you can call and we'll get you on. That give you a chance to perhaps articulate just a little bit better. So we'll have that coming up here in just a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70.
Sample ballots at KSGF.com, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio, and our open lines this morning. And we'll just do this as long as the calls come in. That is Delta Roofing sponsoring that. And before we do go to the traffic, let's kick it off in Nixa with Michael. Michael, welcome to the show. Yes.
Hey, I live in the county, I cannot vote. That's another misinformed ideal. Basically, if you pay taxes on your house, whether you live on the city or the county, you can vote in the school board election regardless of where you live. And you should, because you pay taxes to it. So that being said, I just wanted to give a shout out for Kelly Burns and David Myers in Springfield, for Bridget and Jonathan Lindsay and Nixa, and for Wade Willer in Ozark, and my friend Eddie Campbell running for mayor in Ozark. So y'all have a good day.
All right, Michael, thank you. Appreciate it, good sir. And to his point there, because it can be a little bit confusing, your school district may not be in your town. So, there's part of Springfield you drive through and you're like, there's a Willard school? Wait, what is going on here? And if you're confused, you're like, I don't know which one I'm voting. Just go to your normal voting place. That your voting place is the same. So you can go wherever it is that you normally vote, and that is where you're going to be set up to vote. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward and simple, I would say. All right, now, Angie in Springfield, hold on real quick. We'll get to you next. Want to get a traffic update. The lines are open. That is sponsored by Delta Roofing. 417-447-KSGF. You can call in, text in. Angie next. I'm Nick Reed. All right, open phone lines this morning, sponsored by Delta Roofing. Your thoughts on this election day. We do have sample ballots at KSGF.com, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Save Money Radio. To Angie in Springfield. Angie, welcome to the show.
Good morning. I just wanted to call in and express support for Kelly Byrne and David Myers in the Springfield School Board election. Kelly has demonstrated already he's an independent thinker and will speak up for students and teachers, and I believe David will do the same. So Kelly Byrne and David Myers in Springfield.
All right, Angie, thank you. Appreciate you calling in this morning.
Thank you.
I'll read some of the text messages that have come in on the text line sent from the app. I was voter 2 at my poll at 6:45, so probably not a real long waiting line there. Vote for Kelly and David. All right, we're getting a theme here on the Springfield School Board. Let me go back here. Someone had noted, though hopefully this is remedied. Let's go back and find, where was, someone said that the paper, here we go. I went to vote at the East Sunshine Church of Christ this morning. The Greene County Clerk forgot to send paper ballots for county residents. So again, hopefully that is remedied. 417-447-KSGF is the number if you want to either text in or call in. And by the way, you can be a candidate as well. When we do this, and we do this every election day, obviously, when it is a presidential election, it is 3 hours of nothing but phone call after phone call. And primaries in this area in particular, because it is so heavily Republican, oftentimes is a busy day of calls as well when we do the show. In this way with the phone lines open. But we like to do it every election cycle, so even if it's just 15 minutes of people that are interested in what's going on with local school boards, local city councils, taxes, and so forth, then that's what we do. And so we'll do it until no more calls come in. 417-447-KSGF. I did want to note here, and there's a piece that was put out. Let's see, who put this out? Back on Track, and then Christians Uniting for Political Action. And it notes, and these are DESE performance reports. 59.9% of Springfield public school students performing below grade level in math. That's 60%. 61.5% are performing below grade level in science. 54.6% below grade level in English language arts, and 54.5% of Springfield public school teachers lost, leaving the district within the first 3 years. And I was thinking about how just in the context of the stock market and the eventual numbers at the end of the day, there was a drop, it was 0.9%, or 0.9 of a percentage point, 0.91%, I think. And everyone's flipping out. Can you imagine if it was 60%? Or 55%, or 62%? Because those are the dropped numbers. I mean, if you want to, somewhat apples and oranges, but I think you understand the point here. When you're talking about 60% of students performing below grade level in math, I just don't know that there is any institution that has such a failure rate, but is still lacking the level of outrage that should exist. No entity that I'm aware of could exist with this sort of failure rate and continue to exist. I get there may be some out there, and we're talking about human beings. We're talking about something pretty important and pretty significant. And in the context of Springfield being the largest school district in the state of Missouri, and you've got two of, it's the establishment candidates, Sarah Huff and Gail Smart, and it's just all about let's get along, and it's just all the same stuff that will have the exact same results. Anyone who's running for school board that isn't openly talking about what a failure things are should not be on the school board, unless you want things to stay the same. And this is where so much of the support for Kelly Byrne running for re-election and Dave Myers running for the first time for the school board election are, why they support them specifically is, they may not go along to get along. They may not rubber stamp everything that the establishment says and continue down that path. They may be, quote, disruptive. But how do you fix this spiral downwards without being a bit disruptive? 447 KSGF. Let's go to Bridget in Springfield. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay. Who is conservative that's running for city council? So I don't want to make a mistake.
Are you talking about Springfield?
Yes.
I mean, not really anyone. Unfortunately, Springfield has, I think, arguably really solidified themselves as being sort of a blue city in terms of government. There aren't those alternative voices. I saw Mayor McCheese, in fact, was doing a sort of sit-down long-term interview on, looking back fondly on his time in the city, and half of his accomplishments were tax increases he was talking about. I mean, and we've just seen how left the city has moved with, being involved in transgender drag shows and stuff on the square where kids are invited, and it's just gone completely off the rails. They'll support that, but they booted a Veterans Day parade several years ago. I mean, it's just a matter of priorities, and from everything that I've seen, it's just people that are the common sense, normal, oftentimes conservative folks. They're just not even running in Springfield any longer. They don't think that it makes any difference, which is I get it. Because the city has managed to essentially snuff out all those voices. And again, I'd go back to the interview with Mayor McCheese because he just talked about how everyone's on the same page. That was part of, I think it was an Ozarks First sit-down interview, and I didn't watch it, but I read the transcript, and that was one of the areas that he really bragged on, that everyone was on the same page. And I just think that's a sad thing to be proud of, that there's no diversity in thought, that everyone is one giant rubber stamp, and I think it's for that reason over time we've seen the Angela Romines and the Christy Fulneckis become less and less prevalent. So
I voted for both of them in past elections. I really like both of them.
Yeah, so long answer short, I don't really think that there is this shining star of conservative values that is running in the city of Springfield. So now, if somebody disagrees who's listening, they're more than welcome to call in. Bridget, thank you. I appreciate the call. Did you have it? Hey, you bet. Have a good one now. All right, going to get a quick break in here. Continue on. 417-447-KSGF. Delta Roofing sponsoring our open phone lines this morning with sample ballots online at ksgf.com. Sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. Let's see. Before we get to Diane in Springfield, you had a listener weigh in on something you wanted to relay, Sarah
Yes,
Myers.
so they called in. They had to run really quick, though. But for those who vote at, yes, that's exactly what happened.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
They said Zoom. For those who vote at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, which is at Cox and Republic, they have moved the voting area to the pavilion area, and there's no signs out there, so they are still voting there, but just make sure you go to the pavilion area. I believe this listener said it is the far side of that campus, I think the west side, so just an update on that if you do vote at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Okay, back to the phone lines. We go to Diane in Springfield. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what do you think?
Well, what I want to say is I hope that everybody will go out and vote today for Kelly Byrne and David Myers. And, I mean, that is because we have a huge problem in SPS. When almost 55 to 61% of students are below grade average, and when we are losing over 1/2 of the new teachers within the first 3 years, something is terribly wrong. And there are a number of reasons for these issues. David Meyer and Kelly Byrne know what they are, and they have the courage and the passion to stand strong and to fix things and turn them around. And what I want to say, too, is that to everybody, is that every single vote matters. And every single person that does not vote, that matters equally as much. So please, everyone, please understand that. Please go vote for Kelly Byrne and David Meyer. And the last thing that I want to say is I don't know about anybody else, and I am a woman, and I think women are fantastic, but I don't really want a Springfield Public School Board made up of 7 women, which is what it will be if one or both of these guys do not win. I like boards that are an equal mix of men and women. I just happen to like a balance, and I think men and women bring different things to the table, and I think it's much needed.
Yes, you would think those that constantly push diversity, equity, and inclusion would be more supportive of having more men on there. Interesting that they're not promoting that so much. Diane, thank you. I appreciate the call this morning.
Thank you for what you do.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, those of you who have listened when we have had Dr. M talk about some of the stuff that goes on in the schools, and the problem is, while there is on the board Dr. M, Kelly Byrne, and Steve McCoskey is on his way out, the extreme left controls the board. And, it's just a constant uphill battle. It's almost this... trying to think what to equate it to. As I watch some of the ads of the establishment candidates, the Gail Smart and Sarah Huff, and it's just like everything's wonderful, everything's fine. Let's not change let's just all get along. Everything's wonderful. I would just challenge anyone to provide an example of any institution that is such a failure by the actual results that still is even in existence. Can you imagine? Because if you want to look at it this way, the education of a child, that child that graduates is the product. You're talking 60% below grade level in math? 61.5% below grade level in science. Can you think of any other product that could be put out with a failure rate that high and the company wouldn't be shut down? And probably people go to prison. If airbags had that sort of failure rate, brakes on your vehicle had that sort of failure rate, I mean, anything. We'd be well beyond recall. There would be investigations. These people would be called before Congress to explain. I mean, look what happens when you get just a fraction of that failure rate for airlines to show up on time. I mean, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's not 60 or 62%. But, when you have headlines of airlines and a percentage of, flights being late or luggage being lost, well, we need an airline passenger bill of rights. Congress is pounding their fist, demanding answers. Yet when it comes to children's education, and that really does lay out the pathway for not just their entire existence, but their kids' existence, and that stuff gets passed down. The people who are in charge of these kids, they really should be ashamed of themselves. Those who are in the majority on the school board, those who continue to say, everyone shut your mouth, let's just all get along, kumbaya. No other industry can fail to the degree that the public schools do, specifically Springfield, and have the people that are in charge of directing it still pat themselves on the back and say, no, listen to us when we tell you who to put on the board. If you like the direction things are going, they're wonderful. They're fantastic. Gail Smart, Sarah Huff. Because we can all just get along. Springfield's Talk 104.1 Traffic Update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70.
Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoors. You can learn all about them by going to ksgf.com. Nick's endorsements, also hunterhardscapes.com, premier landscaping service in Ozark. This is not a cookie cutter company. These are premier folks. These are not folks that have like 8 or 9 different sorts of patterns, and then they come and they're like, well, we'll do this one for you, and then they're done in half an afternoon. There's a lot of planning that takes place. They customize it, not just based off of your backyard, or if you want front yard, side yard, whatever done, or maybe your business. You want to have some sort of really nice, accommodating living space in the outdoor for your business as well as your home. It's customized to your needs as well. And that may seem like an obvious thing, but unfortunately it really isn't. For a lot of companies that do that, they'll do like 8 or 9 different things. One of them, oh yeah, we can do that as well. We'll lay some pavers down for you, make a big rectangle, and then just buy fire pits that sit on top of it. A lot of people can do that, but if you want something so much more, you definitely want Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. Again, hunterhardscapes.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. We've got the phone lines open as people head to the polls today. Janie in Rogersville. Welcome, Janie.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
I don't live in Rogersville. I don't live in Springfield, but I live in Rogersville. I have a granddaughter that goes to Springfield School. She's in first grade. I don't like the school because I feel that she should be reading more and reading books. And the teachers are just inattentive to even try to help her read. She comes to my house, and I teach her. I'm actually having to teach her how to read books, and she's doing okay in math, but Springfield schools have never impressed me because I have several friends with kids in school, and you guys need to especially get Kelly in there. I watched the thing on TV with Sam, the interviews. The two ladies did not impress me at all because they just don't give incentives. But kids, I know, you have TV, you got games and things like that they're more attentive to, but we need to step up, and if we can't get the school boards to push for our kids to get better, then they're not going to be up to grade when they graduate to go to college. They won't. So.
All right, Janie. Hey, listen, I appreciate it, and I know how concerned, obviously, parents, grandparents are. If everything was wonderful, if the students performing below grade level in math and science and language arts was 2 to 4%, then candidates that were all about let's all just get along and I'm going to be there to support the teachers and stuff that really, yes, it's important to support the teachers, but everyone says that, right? That's not an identification of the problem. But if everything was wonderful and unicorns and lollipops, and then okay. But man, we are just in dire strait. It's like you got a 5-alarm fire, and people that are vying to be firefighters no, everything's fine. I think it's cozy. Boy, this is a nice. Anybody got any s'mores? No, this is a serious problem. Jenny, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Dave Myers. Actually, I'm assuming this is the same Dave Myers that will be on some of your ballots, a candidate for Springfield School Board.
It sure is, Nick. There's a lot of David Myers out there, but I am the one and only.
Well, glad that you were able to call in as the one and only on the ballot there for those that will be voting for Springfield School Board. I don't want to be too presumptuous. I imagine that you would like people to vote for you.
It would be, it'd be kind of preferable. Yes, no, absolutely. Get out there and vote for Kelly Byrne for school board and David Myers for school board. We will be positions 2 and 4 on the ballot, so 2 and 4 for school board. And I want to say, I've got the airwaves, that I am very, very, very appreciative of all of the people who have spent so much time and so much effort and who have donated so much money to Kelly and myself for our campaigns. It means the world. You are not you're not recognized enough for all the work that you do, and so I just want to say right now that I really, really appreciate all of that, because these campaigns are hard. Back when I used to manage campaigns and run campaigns, that was a tough job, and being the candidate now, you just can't do it by yourself. You really can't. It does take a team effort. So I really appreciate everybody's help and effort and money trying to get us over the finish line. And I want to say to Janie in Rogersville, thank you for being a wonderful grandma who steps up and helps her daughter or granddaughter to read. That's the kind of thing that we need. We absolutely need grandparents and parents to step up, and we need that anyway. Let's be clear. We need that anyway. Parents and grandparents to be involved in the kids' educational lives. That being said, she does bring up a very good point. Our schools right now in Springfield are they're just not doing that great for our students. And let me be even more clear. This is not because of the teachers. For anybody that's going to hear this and say, "Oh, he's just blaming the teachers," no, that's not true. We all have a part to play in this. Parents, teachers, students, administrators, the board. We all have a part to play in this. And as far as the board is concerned, the whole purpose of the board is to set policy, and the board's not setting policy. They're deferring to the superintendent to kind of issue dictates that can be followed or not. I mean, there's no cell phone policy. There's some teachers that are have a cell phone policy in their classrooms, and some that don't. It's the very definition of chaos, and kids can't learn in an environment of chaos. And so this is not let's blame one group of people over the other. Everybody is involved in this process, and that's why I'm running for school board, because I can bring the leadership that this school needs. I can be able to. I have a spine. I will say no to policies that don't work, and yes to policies that do work. And hey, how can we tweak things to make them better? But we've got teachers right now that are telling me that they're demoralized. They're waiting to leave. They're waiting for that time when they can get out. I talk to retired teachers who say that that they'll never set foot in a Springfield classroom again. That's wisdom and experience and decades that is lost to all of the new people coming in wanting to teach. So we've got to do something. We have got to do something, and we got to do it now.
Dave Myers, good luck today. Thank you. Appreciate you calling in.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Yep. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. I've focused on the failure rate based off of DESE numbers. I mean, these are state of Missouri numbers. And the 60% below grade level in math, 61.5, science, so forth, just failure. But I failed, I think sometimes, though it's been listed and promoted, the fact that 54.5% of Springfield Public School teachers lost within the first 3 years. Have you ever worked somewhere where over half of the people get out within 3 years of starting there? I mean, I haven't. I've worked at places that had horrific morale because they were very poorly run, and there was a pretty high turnover, but I don't know that it was over half. I don't think that statistic, that fact, should be ignored. More of your calls coming up. The open phone line sponsored by Delta Roofing. Your calls on today's election. Sample ballots at KSGF.com, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. Text coming in. Voter turnout is the key at my polling place. There was nobody. Open phone lines this morning, weighing in on the election. Delta Roofing sponsoring those open phone lines. Sample ballots at ksgf.com. Sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. And we go to Steve McCoskey, who is an outgoing Springfield Public School Board member. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Nick.
Hey,
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to, as I leave, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Lathan. It's a very difficult position to be the superintendent of the largest school district, and she certainly has. While she's done some great things, she's done some things where I thought were not as great. I think that we can improve in the behavioral aspect of it or the discipline aspect of it. I have to give her some credit. She's listened to the board where cell phones now are moving to some adjustments in the cell phone policy. I'm hesitant and waiting to see what that outcome is going to be. Now, with all of that said, I would not want to be in her position right now with, vote for these people, vote for the people, and she's been so graciously staying out of it. Now, when you have a board that we have right now, which is typically 4-3 votes, you have Dr. Marianne, Muhammad Khani, myself, and Kelly Byrne that, actually are asking the questions, are probing and learning exactly how it is the curriculum that is instituted or adopted is going to be effective for our schools. And the thing about all of that is what I see at risk is the questioning is going to go away, where it's going to continue being that the superintendent leads the Board of Education rather than the Board of Education leading the superintendent. That's where I believe that we are right now. In order to have effective change, I think Kelly Byrne and David Myers are the key elements here. We do not need more of the same, like I think Dr. Marianne Muhammad Khani said on the air with you here a week or two ago. You had a board member, Sharita Tate, that I don't think she's ever voted no against anything. And that is not what we need on the board. We need critical thinkers. We don't need cheerleaders all the time thinking that this is the way to go, the route to take, and let the superintendent do it. No. That is not the way it's supposed to work. So David Myers and Kelly Burns are going to be one of those, or the two candidates that when they are elected, and if they are today, that they're going to continue probing and questioning and rationality, being rational at making decisions and actually forcing the hand of the other board members to get on board for the safety, the welfare, the discipline, the curriculum, the learning, the education of our children, and that, so they can leave with a diploma and become productive members of society. So I'm just telling the public today, yes, Dr. Lathan does a good job. Unfortunately, I don't believe that our board does, and it needs a Kelly Byrne and a David Myers to continue to make that difference so we can fight for these kids.
Steve McCoskey, good to hear from you, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, take care, and let's go to Kelly Byrne on the waiting line here. Thank you for calling in, as your name is, of course, on the ballot for the Springfield district. And your thoughts this morning?
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Excited the day is here. I'm grateful for everything that you've done and having good conversations with Dr. Merriam and otherwise to bring some attention to this race and how important it is. Yeah, I'm running, and I think the key thing about me is just that I think we need to raise expectations in Springfield Public Schools. It's not that there aren't some good things going on, or plenty of good things going on, but there also are some things that we need to do much better at. I really think we just need to have higher expectations for student behaviors and student academic performance. I've served for 3 years and looking forward to serving 3 more. We've got a lot more to do.
All right. Well, I know, of course, we've been taking calls, and I'm sure it comes as no surprise that for Springfield, you and Dave Myers are the favorite amongst this listening audience, and we shall see how things pan out as the day goes on. Kelly Byrne, thanks for calling in, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Of course, you bet. 417-447-KSGF is the number. If we have any other calls or texts, we'll hit that last round coming up here after we get the latest traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. All right. Wrap up here with text messages. Thank Delta Roofing for sponsoring our open text and phones. Sample ballot sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Save Money Radio. Voter number 36 at 740 in Republic. Another asking, what about the mayor? Who's a good candidate? Listen, I can tell you just on the surface, there's been nothing that really impresses me. And after talking with numerous folks, including business owners in Springfield, they just shake their heads. And, I just cannot believe this city, aside from the ideological left-wing bent of the city of Springfield in terms of the city council and mayor. The number of business owners I talk to whose number one obstacle is the city of Springfield. I don't think I've ever observed a local business, and they're generally restaurants, that announced an open date and was able to come anywhere near it. And it's always the exact same reason, the city of Springfield. And everyone knows by name the person or persons who are the problem. And the thing that's so crazy, again, I was just last week having a conversation with a restaurant owner about this, and they were talking about another restaurant that isn't open right now, and it was supposed to have been open some time ago, but because of the city of Springfield, you know how much money gets lost? It's not like they just sit around on pause with no negative repercussions because the city is dragging their feet on this permit or that sign permit or whatever it is. But the thing that's so aggravating to me is that every single time I talk with these different business owners, and this has been going on years, and they all, again, by name, can tell you the person or persons who are the problem, and everyone knows it. Nothing gets done. There isn't a single person on this city council, not one, who currently serves or who's running, or a single person. I mean, Mayor McShee's worthless when it comes to that. Clearly did nothing. It's like, what are you people focused on? If it were this, unknown problem, if this were the sort of thing that the city could say, oh gosh, we didn't know, please have them reach out to us so we can fix this problem, that'd be one thing. But this has been going on years. There used to be the first conversation I had with a Springfield business. Well, it was one of the first. It's been going on so long, I couldn't tell you the exact first, but I know one of the first. It was a guy who ran his own little restaurant. He worked it every day. And I remember, and he had another job in order to try to supplement for the business. And usually it was only one other employee that was working in there. It was a part-time person. This was a pizza joint. And the guy just broken, talking to me about the conflicting information he would get from different divisions of the government. One coming in, because, the city or the county, they'll send different people, telling him he had to do this. It was a specific device that he had. And if he didn't do it, then he would be fined so much every day. And then being told the exact opposite by another division of the government. And each one saying, no, I'm just telling you the way that it is. I mean, no care whatsoever. The guy was broken. This was his livelihood. And he eventually closed up. But this is constantly going on. And this is one of the beefs I have with the chamber, is the fact that this is the sort of thing in my mind the chamber should be doing. There's no entity out there looking out for the interest of these, but that's what kills me. Like, none that have any sort of sway or influence. Not one council member, not one. And if you say, well, I've been trying, well, it clearly hasn't worked. The level of ineffectiveness when it comes to making this a business-friendly environment. Boy, if you came along, though, and said, we're going to get a $600,000 grant to do a study on what makes Springfield more business-friendly, they'd do that in a moment and tell you how we need more bike trails or be more LGBTQ-friendly. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Reed. Coming up Friday, I know it's some time away, but we'll be broadcasting live from Scramblers, the Friday Road Show, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. We are, I'm sure, coming up on our final days of our Love Letters from the Left bracket that is sponsored by Garrison Roofing and Guttering, and a $250 Visa gift card is up for grabs every week that you participate in the bracket. That is an entry, and the bracket is populated with comments that have been either texted to us or posted on our social media from people on the left, and also a chance to win a pair of tickets to catch Hank Williams Jr. live at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena Saturday, August 16th at ksgf.com or through the app. Did you say what's going on over there?
We are in the final round of it.
So it's down to two?
Yes,
all right,
it's down
what
to
are
two.
what are the two finalists?
I wonder what Nazi Nick will have to say today, or I hope your plane crashes. And that is in reference to us leaving for the KSGF Great
Escape. Okay.
Pretty good ones.
Yeah, they are. I really hoped the one, or I thought anyhow, the one that drew my mom into it would do pretty well. Or saying something about how my mom must be proud of.
She raised such a horrible human.
Yeah.
That made it to like round 3.
Because I mean, it's just real straight up.
Well, round 3, mine got nixed too, where somebody had said that they hope that I lose my job and I can't afford to feed my family.
Yeah, it's the warmth of the left, the compassion,
Aren't they just sweet?
It's just shocking that these are the sorts of people that go around attacking people and committing acts of domestic terrorists. I know, just shocking. You would think that they'd be so much kinder when they send messages.
I hope the plane crash one wins.
Yeah, that's
that's my fan favorite.
There is something about the simplicity of that just really, I don't know, really makes it seem like they're like Nike, just do it. It's just straightforward. Hope your plane crashes. You gotta respect that to some degree. And now the person who sent the comment, which I don't even know who it was or posted it, they don't win anything. So that's got to really sting too. That somebody who thinks that your comments are hilarious and insane could win a $250 gift card for picking, end of the week. Is that when that's going to wrap up? Probably.
I believe so.
All right. Hey, I wanted to reference, I was talking about the council and in Springfield and what an unfriendly business environment it is. And for years, I've been back here in Springfield doing this specific show for 15 years. And the entire time hearing from business owners, not all restaurants, but, restaurants really do open up with a frequency here that requires working with the city, and just the nightmare scenario. Constantly, any restaurant, and you all probably know this, because you see, there's some more high-profile restaurants. Casper's went through this, where it's, we're going to open, here's our target date, and then ready to go, and it's the city holding them up month after month after month. Examples all over the place where this sort of thing occurs, and talking about how everyone knows the problem, everyone knows who the problem people are in this city, yet nothing gets done with it, which to me is almost like a big FU from the city to businesses, like we're in charge and we'll do what we want. Someone had texted in asking, why do you not name the city council members holding up business licenses? It's not city council members, it's bureaucrats. It's people within the city whose job it is to come in and go, yep, okay, you're good to go. And all I can tell you is that consistently business owners in Springfield say everyone can tell you who the problem is. But you got to understand, and I get it, while it frustrates many of us in the public, that there's a survival instinct there, and those business owners don't want trouble. I mean, if they are in a position in which they are experiencing a real holdup because of some power-hungry freak or just some vindictive person or whatever the motivation is within the city, that's the last person that they want to have problems with. It's like dealing with the mafia. You've seen it play out before in different movies. There's, the guy comes in, or the muscle comes in and then shakes the person down, and then the new employee's like, why do you put up with that? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Tell them no? What am I going to call? Who am I going to go to? They'll break my legs. Now, obviously, you don't have to worry about having your legs broken in Springfield, but there's that same fear, that recognition that, the person who has the power to keep me closed unnecessarily for months, I'm going to call them out when they have that sort of power over me. You can see why it is that in Springfield, some of these business owners are intimidated into not calling these folks out. So I get it. I don't like it, but that's the city of Springfield, and evidently I don't see it changing in the foreseeable future. It's been that way at least the 15 years that I've been back here. No entity that is a business organization like the chamber seems to make that a priority. I mean, obviously it's not a priority to anyone who has any sort of influence, because it happens year after year after year after year. And so people can claim that they care about it, and people can claim that they want to do something to make it a less intimidating and anti-business environment, but they either don't have the influence to do it, or they're not telling the truth, because nothing changes. Springfield's Talk 1041, latest news update.
Hey, guess what? I'm talking to you.
Oh, what? Sorry.
We have a new member of the KSGF Morning Show family.
Yay!
I know.
We've really been expanding.
I know, we really have. Now, this name you have heard on our station, but you will hear it in a much larger capacity now, and that is Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Now, I'm really excited to tell you about Russell and his team. I've actually used them for many, many years for all of my HVAC needs. In fact, the last time I had Foreman Mechanical out was probably the summer while my husband was deployed. It was probably the hottest day of the year. My AC went out because, that's just kind of how that works. And it was just a lot of added stress. But I did put into a call to Foreman Mechanical, and they were able to come out the very next day, get me all taken care of. And right now, with us being kind of in that in-between weather, it is a good time to schedule those annual service repairs. So once again, want to give a huge welcome to Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Now, to schedule that service repair, or maybe you just want more information, you can visit their website, foremanmechanical.com, or you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com. Your first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist, Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70.
something we talked about yesterday, and in the context of people going out to vote in the, among other things, school board elections, and Dr. M had posted a picture from Roundtree Elementary, and it has a number of international flags. The biggest is the flag of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is a state sponsor of terrorism. What? Are we going to put up an Al-Qaeda flag next? ISIS? Iran funded and gave logistical support to the terrorist attack on Israel on October 7th, the single largest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. You proudly hang their banner up? What the hell? That is insane to me. When we had Dr. M on, who, by the way, is from Iran, so you can't really accuse her of being, Iranophobic. She said that when she inquired about it, they're like, well, because we have Iranian students, and she responded that she knew, in fact, that that was not even true. But even if you, we need to be inclusive. Of what? People who want to wipe Jews off the planet? Are they going to put up a swastika? In terms of the belief system of where Jews belong in the world, it would be no different. I suspect a lot of the same people who proudly would hang that flag love to call Elon Musk a Nazi. Like, what are you're... When she was on yesterday, eventually she was told that it was a gift from an MSU professor. A gift of a terrorist flag? And then the first thought is, hey, let's hang this up and make sure it's bigger than all the rest. Oftentimes, this insanity of DEI is used to promote, like, terrorism, like this, for example. Well, we need to make everyone feel included. But let's say there even were some Iranian students there. What is it we're always told about these people, particularly refugees that come to the United States? That we need to accept them because they're leaving a horrible place. They're fleeing to the United States of America. They have no other option. Hence, they're refugees. Well, why would they, if and again, there apparently aren't even any Iranian students there anyhow, but if you have people come from another country because the country is so dangerous that they have no choice but to take a refugee status here in the United States, why would then you want to fly the flag that they fled? I mean, wouldn't it be the opposite? Like, that's the last thing they would want to see just put on display in front of their face every day? We just want to treat all the countries equal. If you were having a display of veterans, all right, we want to honor veterans. Would you put Timothy McVeigh's picture up there? Probably not. Because he did some bad things, If there was an aviation week, would you have, there's Sullenberg, it's got some famous pilot. Oh, there's Muhammad Atta. Well, he was a pilot, Well, yeah, he flew a plane in the World Trade Center. Well, we just want to make sure all countries are included. It is a state sponsor of terrorism. Roundtree Public. So you think these school board elections don't matter? You have the indoctrination of elementary school students playing under a flag of terrorism in the gymnasium. Unbelievable. It's sad, actually, that it's not in the Springfield Public School District. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Liz had the following to say about her experience, her family's experience with Emily Johnson. She was amazing to work with. As a first-time home buyer trying to navigate the complex and fast-paced market, Emily did a wonderful job in helping us find the perfect home, stay positive, even in a very competitive seller's market. She was professional, knowledgeable, and did not pressure us to look at houses that wouldn't work or go over our budget. We absolutely plan on working with her again if we ever need a realtor. Cannot recommend her enough. That is Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. And you can either her Zillow profile, Facebook. I recommend you follow her. And maybe it isn't for you, but at some point, someone you know is going to ask that question, hey, does anybody know a good realtor? And then there's going to be 80 different people that have 80 different names, but you're going to have the one that is the key to the best experience possible for home buying, home selling. That's Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. You know, I want to go back to this Roundtree thing. The more I think about it, the just more absurd and, frankly, just almost evil it is. And there are a number of different flags representing different countries hanging in the gymnasium at Roundtree, and the biggest amongst them, most prominent, is the Iranian flag, which is a state sponsor of terrorism. Not to mention, this is a country that actively has been trying to assassinate our current president of the United States. This is a country that has consistently and actively over the years killed American troops in Iraq. This is a country that is funding the Houthis so that they could try and kill, among others, American service people. These are active terrorists. Who won't they honor and celebrate in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And for the claim, well, now we just want to make sure everyone feels welcome. I guess terrorist, clearly, at Roundtree is a category of people they want to feel included. But do you have any Jewish students there? Did that ever cross your mind? I don't know. Any Jewish employees? How do you think if you have some sort of assembly or some sort of event with parents and the public come through and any Jewish citizens or parents or grandparents see a flag proudly hanging there that represents a country that does everything they can to eliminate their people off the planet. There's your DEI for you. What a horrible, horrible, horrible message and culture and environment being displayed at Roundtree. I'm sure it's just a simple misunderstanding. I want to play audio. I'm going to shift gears here to something humorous, actually. I just thought that this was genuinely funny. Did you see where Trump had the Los Angeles Dodgers at the... Okay, so now one thing about it I'm glad to see is that we really culturally have shifted away from people being shamed out of visiting the White House because Trump is president. The left did a very good job for a long period of time making it seem like only a few extreme people would ever visit the White House with Trump as president. But because of the overwhelming results of the last election, a lot of these people that may not necessarily be politically minded one way or another, or maybe they even are a little conservative Trump supporters, but they were essentially threatened into silence by this narrative throughout our culture, they're not bothered by it any longer. We're back to a day in which people in America feel empowered to express their thoughts and their beliefs. And that's how this country has always been until the left has really tried to alter the cultural landscape. And so you've got the LA Dodgers coming to the White House. But in addition to that, and I'm going to get a traffic update, and I want to play the audio coming up, where Trump makes a comment regarding specifically Adam Schiff, who, of course, is the U.S. Senator that lied for months and months and months about there being proof that he had access to, that Donald Trump colluded with Putin to rig the elections, and of course it all turned out to be a lie. So in true Democrat California fashion, he got promoted to a U.S. Senator. And at the event, Trump is introducing people, and he specifically notes that he's not going to introduce certain people because he doesn't like them. The reaction to what he says is, to me, what is noteworthy. I want to play that next. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 61. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 72. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70.
Dow futures bounced up over 1,300 now. Just a little bit of an update there. Donald Trump welcoming in the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it's just good to see culturally in this country teams are unafraid to, especially Los Angeles. I mean, you're talking about California, blue state, and this like, no, we're going to the White House. We're no longer going to be intimidated by this, and Trump is introducing people now. There are a couple of folks from California. One is Senator Alex Padilla. The other is, of course, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, part of and a big driver of the Russian collusion hoax. And here is Donald Trump referencing Adam Schiff while speaking to the LA Dodgers and to the audience there at the White House.
Congratulations, Brian. And others. We have a couple of senators here. I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team I didn't think it was that big a deal, actually. Washington.
The reaction is what, to me, just really demonstrates this shift that has happened in this country. There was a time if Trump had said, I would argue his first 4 years, if he had said that same setting, there would have been this very, very uncomfortable silence. And there would have been fear amongst not the audience so much, but the players that, oh my gosh, how do we react to this? If we can't laugh. If we laugh, then we're going to be chastised for it, because there was this successful atmosphere that was created that made it seem like, anytime Trump made fun of someone, it was just awful. It was so horrible. It was adding to this horrific discourse in this country. I think people have loosened up a bit. They have gotten a better understanding of Trump. They aren't taking life so serious. And frankly, Democrats have so delegitimized themselves that when they are the butt of a joke, I don't think that people find it uncomfortable. I don't think that the average person thinks, oh boy, this is supposed to be a stately event, and that's supposed to be a respected United States senator, and to hear that occur is uncomfortable. They all naturally laughed. And then Trump is the one who tried to move on. I'll play the audio again because I think it's funny how natural and organic it was. And that he's trying to move on, but the players and everyone, Adam Schiff is there. They are laughing at him, genuinely laughing at him, to the point that Trump has to stop and joke again about, well, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, this is Washington after all.
Congratulations, Brian. And others. We have a couple of senators here. I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team I didn't think it was that big a deal, actually. Washington.
It sounds like even the audience, as if this is a comedy routine. It's the Smothers Brothers or something on stage back in the day, and you've got this audience roaring with laughter. Can you imagine how, because Adam Schiff, he's such a little piece of crap. And he's just filled with this sort of jealousy of Trump, this hatred for Trump. You think about everything he did and the amount of taxpayer dollars he used to try and overthrow the Trump presidency, overthrow the election by falsely claiming that there was proof that Putin and Trump conspired to steal the election. And that's what, I mean, Adam Schiff, every time he'd come out, is like, now, we can't tell you what it is because, you know, it's secret information. You got to understand. But trust me, there's a smoking gun. I see it, and you'll see it soon. And it turned out that that was a lie. Even he acknowledged in testimony that there was no evidence. And then, you know, he represents California, and he probably is already ticked off that he's coming to the White House with Trump there, and he hates seeing that Trump is the way that, you know, this is his state. This is his base. But because he's one of those guys that, you know, wants to glean the fame off of others, wants to feel important. He gives off this air of that being Adam Schiff, of you know, being insecure. And so really wanting to wedge himself in there with the popular guy, and then Trump to mock him that way. And to see all of those players just laughing hysterically, that's pretty bad. It's well-deserved. Very, very well-deserved. But if you were a kid that was really laughed at and made fun of in elementary school, that whole scene could possibly give you PTSD. And I don't know that Adam Schiff himself probably didn't find himself in that scenario. Now, I've got some other audio coming up. And once again, the rising star of the Democrat Party, Representative Jasmine Crockett, has made a claim that I think is one of the most transparent and honest statements in regards to illegal immigration that a Democrat has made. And it's actually something that I've claimed for some time here, but she's on tape saying it, so I want to play that next. I'm Nick Reed. Representative Jasmine Crockett. She was at Grace Baptist Church this past weekend because Democrats are all for the separation of church and state until they think that they can get votes out of it, and then all of a sudden they're there in church behind the pulpit oftentimes, allowed to even preach on Sundays. And she is talking about the issue of illegal immigration and slavery.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
And there it is. The argument that the Democrats make in support of illegal immigration, economically speaking, is the same argument that they made in order to argue in favor of slavery. And that was the price of cotton. The exact same argument, and how perfect is it that Jasmine Crockett is making that argument? Hey, we're not going to do it. We already were the slaves. It's their turn now. We're done picking cotton. Let those people do it. Let them work for slave wages. The big economic push that has consistently come from Democrats and some establishment Republicans when it comes to illegal immigrants is that the cost of the produce that they pick is going to go up. That economically speaking, because they work so much cheaper than Americans will work, that one of two things is going to happen if we deport people in this country illegally, and that is either the cost is going to go up. Well, it will go up, and at the same time there will be food rotting in the fields. Remember all these? I don't know if you saw these pictures, and who knows if what these pictures were actually the result of, but they were presented as, look at all that wasted food. That's what the illegals are supposed to be doing. How many times did we hear during Trump's first term, who's going to mow our grass? Kelly Osbourne, that time on The View, famously asked Donald Trump, who's going to clean our toilets if you deport illegals? Who's going to do these jobs that no one else will do? That was the economic argument that the Democrats also used for slavery. Who is going to pick the cotton? Who is going to work the fields? If they don't do it, they're doing the job for such a cheap amount, essentially free. I mean, you had the cost of, room and board, but outside of that, it was an economic thing. I think that escapes a lot of people. There's this belief that slavery existed in this country because you had people that thought it would be a fun hobby to own people of a different color. Just like having goldfish or something, and it would just be a fun little hobby. It was economic reasons. It was because it was cheap labor. That's the reason that slavery existed, cheap labor. I mean, that's generally why slavery has always existed, because the people who controlled those that were enslaved could make them do things that they didn't want to do. And we see such a consistency, and it's this ideological approach that the left has about ownership of people, whether it's abortion or slavery, that they should have the right to control other people's lives, whether it's to kill them if they're unborn or to own them as slavery. That theme, it transcends all of these different issues in which they've been on the wrong side of history. And to have Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett so clearly state, we're done picking cotton. It's their turn now. I don't think there could be a better summation of that ideology being carried over to the illegal immigration issue, and that is the same mindset that they had with slaves. Cheap labor, that's why we need them. And some would argue that it's just as morally wrong today to utilize illegals for cheap labor as it was to use slaves for cheap labor. I suspect that those who support the cheap labor, artificially cheap labor, on the backs of these people, because it's not as if those people in this country illegally are cheaper just because they're like, we don't want that much pay. We're told they have no other choice. Am I correct? We're told that, this is what we're constantly told. These are individuals that have no other choice but to come to this country and to try to find work. And so, essentially, they are in a slave position. Jasmine Crockett, we're done picking the cotton. Something that they can do now, the illegals. What a profoundly enlightened perspective from the Democrat Party. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com. Thought I'd share with you this little story. The Federalist, 3 Pennsylvania officials plead guilty to election fraud. This give you an idea of how this stuff works. In the dumpy little borough of Millbourne, Pennsylvania, 3 elected Democrats cheated in the 2021 election in almost every imaginable way. Their candidate, one of the 3 cheaters, still lost his bid for mayor by some 30 votes. The 2 other cheaters are still in office as of April 4th, according to a phone call to the Bureau Hall. The 3 pleaded guilty April 1st to a host of election fraud offenses at separate hearings before United States District Judge Harvey Bartle III. To examine their scheme is to see in play many of the red flags election integrity experts have warned about. It is a textbook for cheaters to study, and they will, unless Pennsylvania changes some laws to make it harder to cheat. Tiny Millbourne Bureau, population 1,300, lies in the greater Philadelphia metro area and is about 8 blocks long, or 0.1 square mile of mostly run-down cookie-cutter apartment buildings. There are bars on windows and spent old cars on lawns. Its claim to fame is the Millbourne train station to Philly, the Philadelphia Sikh Society, the main building in town, and now election fraud. According to an indictment filed February 18, 2025 in U.S. court in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, here is what happened in 2021 when 3 sitting members of the Millbourne Borough Board decided to run for re-election. Councilman M.D. Munsar Ali won the Democrat primary in May and advanced to the November ballot. Councilman M.D. Rafiqul Islam lost in the primary, and Council Vice President M.D. Nural Hassan narrowly lost the primary, 138 to 120. Hassan decided to run a write-in campaign for mayor in the general election, and Islam and Ali said that they would support the effort. According to U.S. Attorney David Metcalf, the 3 conspired to steal the election. The plan was a 7-step process. Get identification information from people living out of town, then use their ID to change their voter registration address to Millbourne using Pennsylvania's easy and convenient online portal for voter registration. Because democracy. Next, electronically request mail-in ballots and have the ballots sent to mailboxes that the 3 cheaters could access. Get the ballots from Millbourne mailboxes, fill out the ballot voting for Hassan as mayor, then stuff the ballot into the envelope and write the voter's name on the envelope as the official signature. The final step was to submit the bogus ballots at the Delaware County Board of Elections. This signature step forces a fraudster to forge someone's name. Democrats have been trying to get the state to drop the envelope signature requirement, which of course would make it easier to cheat. They also preferred unmanned drop boxes where cheaters could bring more than one ballot undetected. I'm sure all in the name of voter integrity. The 3 admitted that they contacted friends and acquaintances living outside Millbourne and asked to register them for voting in Millbourne and then cast mail-in ballots on their behalf for Hassan to be mayor. Quote, Hassan and Ali persuaded many of their non-Millbourne friends and acquaintances to provide them with personal identification info so that Hassan and Ali could register them to vote in Millbourne, a DOJ statement said. During many of these conversations, Hassan and Ali told their non-Millbourne friends and acquaintances that they would not get into trouble as long as they did not vote in another election in November of 2021. Hassan and Ali also used the ID of some people without telling them. Quote, every time that Hassan accessed the state voter registration website to change a voter registration address, he provided an email address for the voter. Many times Hassan provided one of 4 email addresses that he used and accessed. To divert suspicion from himself, however, Hassan sometimes provided email addresses belonging to other people who knowingly and willfully permitted Hassan to use their email addresses to cover up his actions. One of those people was Islam himself, who allowed Hassan to use 2 of Islam's email addresses when Hassan fraudulently changed the voter registration addresses of 6 individuals. Islam also permitted Hassan to use 2 of his email addresses when requesting mail-in ballots for 5 non-Millbourne residents. The Delaware County Board of Elections found 549 registered voters in Millbourne for the May primary, increased to 578 registered voters by the November election. Most were changed addresses of people previously marked as living outside of Millbourne, no surprise. Of course, requiring in-person voting and photo ID would have prevented this scam. While some states require photo ID, Pennsylvania does not. The Department of Justice says that the 3 falsely registered nearly 3 dozen non-Millbourne residents and cast ballots for them. It was not enough, however. Hassan still lost, 165 to 138. Hassan, 48, pleaded guilty to all 33 charges, 1 count of conspiracy, 16 counts of giving false information and registering to vote, and 16 counts of fraudulent voter registration. Ali, 48, pleaded guilty to 25 charges, a count of conspiracy, 12 counts of giving false information and registering to vote, and 12 counts of fraudulent voter registration. Islam, 52, pleaded guilty to 7 charges, 1 count of conspiracy, 3 counts of giving false information and registering to vote, and 3 counts of fraudulent voter registration. Since the 2021 election, Hassan found his way back on the board. Both Hassan and Ali currently sit on the Millbourne Council Board. The 3 are scheduled for sentencing June 18th and face maximum possible sentences of 5 years in prison for each of the charges to which they pleaded guilty. For example, Hassan's 33 charges times 5 years in prison, 165 years. The case was investigated by the FBI, the Delaware County District Attorney's Office, and a grand jury. The case was prosecuted by Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark Dubnoff. Melcalf said in a statement that election integrity cases are a priority for his office. Now, the punishment is what will matter here. The fact that these individuals pled guilty smells as if there was some sort of deal made to which if they plead guilty, there will not be a maximum sentence sought here. And with whom that discretion lies, I don't know. But I find it very difficult to believe that these individuals would plead guilty to something if they knew that being found guilty could, or pleading guilty could result in 165 years in prison unless they were assured that that would not happen. Much like other crimes in this country, the arrest isn't a punishment. It is the amount of time that gets served that is the punishment. And what oftentimes happens is you have individuals that portray themselves as being tough on crime by showing, oh, look, we arrested him. We put him on trial. Or when it comes to smash and grab style crimes in blue run cities and municipalities, they will say, oh, look, we have increased the number of arrests by 82% in the last year. That shows that we are getting tough on crime. Well, whenever those individuals end up right back out on the street, or if they do serve any time, it's so absolutely minimal, it has no impact on their behavior, then it really doesn't matter how many times you arrest them or how many different deals you work out, because they don't care. And when it comes to voter fraud, some of these people, we need to make people very, very, very afraid to commit voter fraud in this country. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.